Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of the Federation Conversation. I'm Digital David, number one on the streets and in the sheets, and joining me is Scotty.
That's right guys, it's your boy Scotty joining you for episode 26 of the Federation Conversation. With Digital David on board, I've suckered him into this to try and pad some of the dead air and just to maintain some continuity, because as we all know, for the first 25 episodes of this podcast, we had David on board, and really this podcast is his project. He didn't give me explicit permission to do this, to podcast about Star Trek on my own on his channel. He might delete this video as soon as he sees it. But I find it hard to quit on a thing, and if we've stood for anything in our many years on YouTube, it's for seeing things through and finishing projects, maybe not on time, in some cases taking over a decade to do them, but we always get our man, as the detectives say.
That's right, Scotty.
So anyway, it's going to be really hard. I've got this list of Digital David dialogue here on a soundboard. Don't quite know how I'm going to get it all in context. I mean, hang on, I'm going to scroll through. I'll ask David a sample question. David, what do you think about how the way Discovery's turned out so far? I mean, what do you think of the quality of the show, the people that make it?
The showrunners, they have done an excellent job.
David's on board with the showrunners. Awesome. Okay. I'll try and save those for, while I'm talking. At least pretend that there's a real man sitting next to me. I haven't done a solo podcast of anything in almost 5 years. That's probably some big part of the foot dragging with doing this one. There's a lot of factors, a lot of angles here. I don't like Star Trek Discovery. Well, I haven't really made a secret of that. Every week that this show would come out, it's now off the air. It's been off the air for like 2 months now. Thank God. It just seems to... You think you've hit peak annoyance with the thing, and then they'll just throw something else at you. And you didn't know you could get that annoyed by Star Trek, which is the most frustrating thing. You know, this is now part of the... if you were like a collector and you were going to buy a box of 100 DVDs, Discovery would be in there, and it really doesn't belong. But I'm ranting way off track here. We are here to talk about 211, my own personal 9/11, Perpetual Infinity. It might be one of the worst episodes. No. We'll get into ranking them some other time. But so much to talk about. When we were originally doing this podcast, me and David, I was every now and then he would fidget with a little USS Defiant model. He thought he was pretty cool. Loving to show off and just be a general asshole about his incredible collecting.
I think that's a bit harsh.
Whatever. Okay, you're not an asshole, David. You're a good guy. But so I decided I'd try and show him up by building my own personal fleet. And, it's gathered dust! See that? Do you need any more fucking metaphor about, Okay, well, I'm putting that back down. Pretend that didn't happen. Wow, that's a real metaphor for our situation. Point being, I bought 5 starships. I'll show you them sometime. Just to be like, haha, David, look, I one-upped you. And then he turns around to me and he's like, what? No, I had like 20 of them. I just didn't care. I got rid of them. So it's another little episode of Scotty's life. He's trying to man up to David and be a competitor to him, and clearly it went nowhere. I'm just looking at the notes here, because now all I have is notes. The beauty of this is that I had notes to remind myself of what happened in the episode, but I would just talk to David about Disney and shit. Now all I have is a soundboard. What else can I say? Let's have a quick look. There were some great scenes with Stamets in this episode. I don't know what David thinks about those.
I have a couple of ideas on how Kevin Spacey might have made things a little more interesting in this episode.
Oh, okay, cool. Anyway, I can't even crack my knuckles. Nothing works for me. This episode starts with a flashback to Michael Burnham's childhood, which, when she described it, I got a completely different feel for it. I thought she was younger. I thought the house was more normal, like a normal house. Turns out it's like a lab that her parents live in because they're scientists. The Klingons, I thought they'd be coming in like Mongolians and carving the place up and eating the father in front of her. I don't even know if I've mentally just invented that subplot myself, the fact that she watched them eating her parents. Was that a thing? I swear that was part of the story she told, so she's either a complete liar or I'm just imagining things. But I think in life, with these TV shows, we tend to imagine in our heads a better show than the one that we watched. In actuality. I don't know, David, do you?
I was about to say the same thing.
Oh, okay, cool. Anyway, here, let me have a quick look at this. David needs what we call a Mexican wake-up call. Yeah, that right there is an example of what happens when you have a note that you've forgotten about. You read it a month later, you look it up, and you find out that actually there was no joke to be had there. I wish I hadn't written that down. Okay. So anyway, this episode starts with, as I said, the home life of the Burnhams. They're in the lab. Klingons come. Shaniqua Martin Green's mum decides to get into the suit she's been tinkering with for years. Right over the top of things, I don't understand why that had to be the invention. A suit. Wouldn't you just invent a space shuttle or a ship or something? Why the Iron Man suit? Is if the Avengers that good that we need to be ripping it off in Star Trek? I don't know. I'm sick and tired of a woo face waking up from surgery. Yeah. When she wakes up from the operation, in the previous episode, this feels like years ago now, she was being starved of oxygen, then her mum comes back from the future to save her or some crap. Which, again, that whole thing I found to be hateful and terrible. I didn't like having that inflicted on me. But anyway, the resolution is she's back in sickbay now. She's been woken up, she's been revived, her skin is miraculously healed from the deoxygenating... I can't even say it. She was choking in the vacuum chamber. I don't know. David, what do you think about this dog shit? I mean...
The beauty of Star Trek Discovery is that every episode delivers so consistently. Each episode packs a punch. And the actors are all so talented.
So you don't think that this is a tremendous waste of time? Don't you think they could be doing more with Star Trek? Like, making better use of the huge reach and potential of the name?
I think they're doing the best they can within the limitations of the license.
Okay, well, that's where you and I are going to have to differ, I think, because I think they're really squandering things as it is. But, hey, I don't want to disrespect you, David. Your opinion is valid. Let's have a quick look. Yeah, no, I'm sick and tired of the Burnham faces whenever she's been wounded, punched, or otherwise inconvenienced on this program. In this case, she wakes up from sickness. First thing she does is looking right down the barrel of the camera. I hate to say it, kind of jumping out. I'm not a fan. I don't understand the necessity, the constant... When you wake up from surgery, you might say some goofy things, your eyes might be independent of each other, but it's ordinarily a pretty cruisy Pink Floyd kind of experience. And with Burnham, it's always, a complete overreaction. But anyway, there was one good aspect of this intro to episode 211. What is it? Yeah. Let's have to check the screen again. The number one, I would say probably the only favour they did me, but at least they did one, so... They made it so that this mother paradox thing that I had built up in my head wasn't... That's not what they were trying to say. What they said was, since it's her mother, their DNA was so similar that we thought it was Burnham, that kind of thing. Which in a way feels like a cop-out. I kind of wish that they had gone with the whole she's her own mother thing, but at the same time, I know it's impossible, so it would have ruined the show for me anyway. So, maybe Discovery can't win. Maybe I'm just being too critical. What do you think, David?
I strongly agree, Scotty.
Okay. It's really great having a David that's compliant and just... Sorry. Anyway. The show is gobbledygook. The show is wasting valuable minutes of my life showing me someone I don't care about freak out because her mum is still alive. Yeah, that scene felt like it went on forever. She's in sickbay, she's woken up and remembered, oh, holy crap, the last thing I saw before I passed out was my mum in this future spacesuit that we've been chasing for weeks. So they play that out. She's like, oh my god, my mother's alive? Oh, and the first thing she says is like, is my dad alive too? Which was really, really funny. It reminded me of that old, I think the series is How It Should Have Ended. It's these animations on YouTube where they take movies and obviously do goofy things to them. And when Darth Vader finds out, wow. When Darth Vader finds out he has a son, he's like, oh, I have a son? Oh, stormtroopers, I have a son! Asteroids! And he's running around joyfully spreading the news. And that's what Burnham's reaction made me think of. Is my dad alive too? Good stuff. Anyway. Oh! Apropos of nothing. I heard that this is some sort of white pride or racist or Nazi hand signal now. Which really got me very curious because I know it's just the OK sign. You don't need to tell me that. What I want to know is when did they seize upon it? How do these things work? At what point does a hand signal become stolen by a group of people just because they happen to be the ones using it the most at any point in time? Feel free to, I can't do that anymore, is that what you're saying? Right. Can't believe it. Losing to a rug. What else? David, bail me out here, man. You gotta tell me something else. The actors in this show. What about
Michelle Yeoh as Captain Shenzhen is really taking her performances to a higher level this season, and I'm absolutely pumped to see what she comes up with in her spin-off show. The fact that she's a wrinkly bag of bones who can't talk properly has nothing to do with her performance.
But see, that's the thing, David. I think the fact that she's a wrinkly bag of bones prevents her from delivering a performance. I think, fuck, I can't keep doing this. Well, the problem is that the David quotes are also disorganized. I don't know. I mean, what do you think?
I feel like at this point in terms of Star Trek, even though Discovery is awesome and probably in my top 5 Star Trek shows, they need to make some bold decisions and take the franchise in a more unpredictable direction.
Okay. Oh, well, I definitely don't agree with that. It's interesting now. I don't actually know how many Star Trek shows there are. This is another reason we stopped doing the podcast and probably won't be doing it anymore. But you have Star Trek The Next Generation. Oh, there was the animated series as well, if you count that. Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Enterprise, now Discovery. And now they're like drunken sailors. They're just throwing more series onto the to-do list. Which I can assure you, if you're someone who's trying to get things done, adding things to your to-do list is not the way to get that accomplished. I sat down as a thought exercise and wrote down a bunch of things I want to do. You can't see it because it's too... Oh, it looks blank. Is that a metaphor or what? Hang on. If I just block out the light a little bit... hang on. What the hell? It's not blank. There you go. It's covered in shit. That was... Believe me, writing that down didn't get me any closer to achieving any of my goals. So these guys running Star Trek into the ground at the moment, going, oh, you know what, we need a kids animated show, but a more adult one as well. Shenzhou needs to have a show of her own. Now Picard needs to make a comeback for some god-awful reason. And make no mistake about that. We didn't even get... See, David's such a piker. He quits on the podcast and then we don't get to talk about the Picard trailer, which was very short, by the way. Putting him in there isn't going to make the show any better. It's not going to lend any quality, because good actors can be in bad shit. They are all the time. It's not going to lend any continuity, because it's been so long since he was Picard. It's not like there's a real... actors love to fucking fluff these things up and be like, oh, to get into the role again, I watched some of the old episodes and really got into the mind space of that person. They don't exist. It's just... I've got to stop interrupting myself with these little 3-word rejoinders. It's going to suck. It's probably not going to be enough like old Star Trek to make those people happy, but it also bears no relation to what else is being made now. I don't know. And here's the thing. Before I clicked on the trailer, I saw a caption saying something like, Picard is back, but maybe in a way you completely didn't expect, kind of thing. And I said to myself, under my breath, oh, he's probably just going to be in that vineyard that he was in from the Star Trek finale. And you click the trailer, and there he's in the fucking... He's farming wine. So, their ability to surprise me is down there somewhere. It's in the swamps. And I just think this is going to be another dogshit show, except now it's going to have someone I love in it.
I was wondering about that myself.
What, the fact that it's going to be a complete shit show?
I had that exact same thought.
I pressed the wrong button. See, that's the problem with the soundboard. I just fucking hate myself. I couldn't, I might as well just set fire to my computer. I can't make anything of any decent quality anymore. I have no talent.
I think that's a bit harsh.
Okay, then, cool. Thanks for rescuing that little... fuck. Well, that was probably a really good time to just break for dinner and have a bit of a breather and think about this a little more, because I haven't done a Star Trek podcast. I haven't done any podcast on my own in probably almost 5 years, and doing this one is a little strange because this was really a me and David project. It's not like the normal podcast where I can just do one on my own whenever I feel like it. Although, now that this thing's kind of cancelled, not 100%, not officially, but basically, I don't know. We'll have to start doing the normal one instead. If you're even listening to this, just post a comment saying, that sounds like a great idea, Scotty. Those exact words. That's all I need to hear. Yeah, watch this. That doesn't happen. Anyway, back to the episode. 211, Perpetual Infinity. Which is what it fucking felt like watching it, believe me. Leland is this bald guy, the one that looks like he's from Babylon 5. He's constantly in that gay bar leather outfit. I've noted him down here as Admiral Cheesesteak. I don't know what that means, but maybe it's just how he looks. Like, he looks like he's just eaten one. You get the moisture from the cheese on his mouth still. He's, in the last episode before this one, which really, really feels like a long time ago, he got jolted in the eye by a magic needle from Control, which is the new villain. Again, another bad creative choice. But anyway, that's beside the point. So, he's under control of Control now. I just blinked and now there's like something blurring my eye. I think it's some sort of fucking sleep or something. I don't know. Help me out here, David. David, this is a really dumb show.
I don't know if I agree with that.
Oh, really? Okay. Anyway, sorry about that. I had to do something I really don't like doing. I had to go back to the episode and look at something so that the notes would make sense. But here we go. Admiral Leland. He's tied up to like a doctor's chair or something, or apparatus. He's had the prick in the eye from Control in the last episode. And now Control is talking to him using this really... I don't even know if it's a cliche, because it feels as though I've seen it before in other movies, but the villain is coming onto him, not coming onto him, but trying to seduce him, not even seduce him, but just communicating to him using the visages, the looks of several people he knows. So for 1 second it's Saru, then it's Pike. I didn't actually look that far, but maybe even he talks to himself. But it's basically using holograms of various people to try and, get the point across to Leland. No, I'm going to say it's a cliche. I am sure movies and TV shows have done that before, and I really hate it. It's almost biblical, I think, maybe, Jesus is out in the desert, and the cactus turns into the devil, or the devil turns into a cactus and tries to talk him into sinning or something. I don't know. Maybe I'm just completely misremembering. I haven't done Bible studies in a while, but that feels... Yeah, I don't know. That scene sucks. I don't actually know what the point of it was, because like I said, I didn't really pay that much attention. It is morally very interesting territory, though, because the knock-on effect of this is that Control is saying, Leland, you're dead. You're gonna die. And, but I'm gonna pretend to be you to complete the mission kind of thing. And that's a very interesting moral territory. A computer, imagine, a computer taking on the identity of a man to fulfill an original purpose that he's no longer around to complete. It's like the next stage in human evolution. I for one, find that very, very compelling.
I strongly agree, Scotty.
Oh, thank you, David. Anyway.
I absolutely agree with that.
Oh, cool. Well, anyway, I wasn't expecting David to agree with me so resoundingly. It doesn't happen often, so... But the whole thing, this fucking Control thing taking over Leland, It's another one of these things in Star Trek where it kind of evokes something they've done already. In this case, I would say maybe the Borg, or I don't know, whatever. But it just isn't as good. It's a reductive experience to watch a show that's kind of playing hopscotch on the same squares, but somehow it just isn't as great as like the first time you did it. Maybe that's a shit analogy, but I don't know, they're trying to hit all the same targets, all the same beats, as David would say. I haven't got a digital David quote for that, but, I think he more or less, that's something he would say.
That's right, Scotty.
But yeah, it's just falling short, and consistently, it's always crap. I don't know. Does anybody like Discovery? If you're still hearing my voice, say yes or no. No, I don't know. Fuck, man, this is a real painful thing. It's a painful experience. I want to be able to talk David back into doing this kind of thing, but like I say, Discovery just makes it so impossible. Imagine trying to force a man to watch this show. I don't know. Some people have commented on this podcast saying, great, I don't have to watch Discovery, I can just watch you guys talk about it. So it's really hard to get across to you just how fucking bad it is, and what a sacrifice it is for either one of us to throw ourselves on that bonfire for you. Yeah, okay, let's move along a bit. Anyway, Burnham watches the mission log from when her mum split. That's literally the first thing she does, is be like, well, what happened when mum was gone? So she trundles off to watch all the home videos, which are hilarious in their own right. I have to say, the woman playing Burnham's mum, another one of these overqualified actors. I think she might actually be punching way above the weight of this show. But of course the story still sucks and nothing makes sense. But the home videos are very funny because you go through it and it's just variations on, no matter how many times I keep time jumping, I just can't get it right. It's very funny stuff. Oh, I did the thing again. Oh, crap, I'm a white nationalist. Tilly needs to shut her fucking face. It's not cute anymore. Absolutely. I'm agreeing with myself here, but I'm sure David... No, see, David likes Tilly, but I think even he's fucking had enough of her now. They just... they lack any subtlety in this program. They find something for a character to do, and then it stays stuck in that fucking mode. In this instance, Tilly has to interrupt every scene, every mission briefing she walks into with it's just, I feel sorry for the actress because, I used to like Tilly. But yeah, just, you can only do what you're given to work with, which is my sort of limp defense of this crappy podcast. You can only be as good as the show you're talking about. And another thing I've noticed is not so much good or bad episodes, but you can tell when an episode at least gives you something to think about by the runtime of the podcast that's about it. And if your episode of your podcast is way shorter than the episode of the show, then yeah, there's really not a lot to work with. I complained about the leather again in section 31. Yeah, basically it's like Barbed Wire, which is a movie that my wife introduced me to by Pamela Anderson. It's not one of these things where I'm surprised I didn't know about it, because it's... Oh, but see, that's the thing, there are so many things that should be... Well, I really hesitate to use this word, iconic, because people like Jeffree Star use it. Don't even get me started on that fucking creep. Obviously, we'll have to start the normal podcast again, just so I can talk about him. But although David does have some opinions about that guy, I think...
Jeffree Star likes receiving hot pork swords up his butterball pudding.
Oh, okay. Iconic, yeah. There's stuff that should be really, really popular and famous, and I should be able to just say it, and you guys know it. One example would be the It's My Challenge music video by Govinda. Scotty, what the hell's that? Well, you should know that. I'm a bad uncle. I've failed you if you don't know what that is. But anyway, yeah, things that should be iconic. I was like, and Barbed Wire, yeah, like I said, I mean, that, I hope, is one. I only just found out about it very recently, and we watched a couple of scenes, me and my wife, and very funny stuff. Highly underrated. The funny thing on Burnham's mum's face is like a mustache. Now, I don't know what that note means. I didn't watch the episode. It was like over a month ago that I watched it, I think, so I don't know what that means. But yeah, this is a point I've made before. If the resolution of this whole plot sucks ass, which it does, then you can only blame yourself. You've based a whole season of television. That's what gets my goat the most. People shit on old Star Trek. Oh, it's too episodic, and the episodes don't relate to each other, and there's no overarching plot. I've heard people say shit like that. But then you look at the flip side of that is, if you back the wrong horse when you're making up the plot for your incredible arch, your story arch, am I saying that wrong? Arc or arch? Which is it? Is it both? If you build all of that on a shit premise, like this Red Angel shit, then it doesn't matter what the resolution. The whole show, by definition, is just going to be a waste of time. It's going to be a burner. Bo Burner. Michael Burner. But anyway, there's a lot of funny shit. Burnham freaking out because she wants to talk to her mum, but of course mum says, I think, I only want to speak to Captain Pike. I don't want to see my daughter. And so there's more of that, more of these little freakouts happening. And also, there's a note here saying that I was confused because I took a little break from watching Discovery, and when I came back, Culber was like fine being a doctor again. And the last time I remember seeing him, he was having like an existential crisis. Didn't know what he wanted to do anymore because he wasn't really himself. Yeah, apparently he's happy in sickbay again. He must have just needed a breather. Don't we all? Am I right? Okay. Stock footage of Burnham hearing something she doesn't want to hear at 18 minutes in. I'm going to have to take that for granted. Oh, okay. Classic Star Trek trope. You'll see this in all Star Trek, good or bad. They list two real events. Alright? Two real historical events or characters, like Genghis Khan, Abraham Lincoln, and then they'll make up like an Andorian. And they did it again here. The Library of Alexandria. So that's the real one. And then they'll have something made up completely, like the Bibliothèque of Cornucopia 5. Saru did that at some point, was the point I was going to make. So, that's not a complaint or a compliment about this episode. I'm just pointing it out. These little Trek cliches, I don't know, do you think we still need them? I don't think if I had to make one point, it would be that putting them in there sure doesn't make it Star Trek. It's another example of them just trying to fake it, I think. But who knows? I'm the man doing a podcast with myself and my fucking digital nephew.
I absolutely agree with that.
It's because I I pay you to. So, I don't know, David. Overall, how do you feel about this episode?
I feel like if there was one thing I could have improved, it might have been the ending of this episode, but that's just me.
Okay, the ending. It's interesting that you singled in on that when really the rest of it definitely could have used some tuning. Okay, here we go. There's another conundrum or dilemma in this episode that really I felt nothing about. That is, a few episodes ago they had this giant sphere going through space, that it was as old as the universe itself or some crap, and it had accumulated all the knowledge of all the events that ever happened. Which is another example of the people who make Discovery really shooting for the moon and just not getting there. But this is supposed to mean something now. The stakes are incredibly high. Oh, this knowledge could benefit the Federation. And then now they're like, oh, Bo Burnham's mum has come back from the future and she's telling us to destroy the sphere. And Saru's like, oh, this is priceless. It could benefit our society so much. And I'm kind of thinking about it, thinking, the future woman is coming to you and saying, destroy this thing, you got to destroy it, that's the only choice. If someone has come from the future and is being pretty unequivocal about you having to do something, wouldn't you just do it? How hard is that to figure out? So, and Saru's supposed to be one of the smart ones. I don't know where I'm going with this. I mean, I know it might be really hard, like torching something with no real visceral, right up in front of your face proof that you're doing the right thing. And I'm a hoarder, both a physical hoarder and a digital hoarder. Like I talk about this all the time, and I could fire up on my computer right now the stuff I had in 1995, like my old drawings and stories that I was writing and shit like that. I hold on to these things, and so I understand having a galactic hard drive with everything that ever happened on it might seem like a big deal to just get rid of it. But again, we're talking about saving the universe, and as much as I think the universe of Star Trek Discovery isn't worth saving, especially after some of the spoilers I heard in not watching the show. I don't know. To me, it's a simple. The point I was trying to make. It's a very simple decision to make, and Saru needlessly complicates it with this. This is worth more than we could ever calculate. Nonsense. Space Niles. Okay. I did write down that I wish they could recast Shazam Latif, who plays Tyler, Ensign Tyler. I wish they could replace him with Richard LaRuina from Super Seducer. I stand by that point. They're virtually the same guy. 22 minutes in. I don't know what that means. What's 22 minutes in? Fuck, I don't know. I'll have to check later. If it means something, I'll put it in. The personal logs being cinematic is incongruous. Yeah, I don't like this in Star Trek. It's an old limitation, something you expect from the 60s, but they sort of stuck with it. And that is that things like security cameras or personal logs or any video being played back, they're always highly cinematic, you know. And it's the same with her mum's personal logs while she's in the red suit. Shouldn't it just be from like the helmet-mounted GoPro? Like, I know it would look goofy as hell, but I wouldn't mind if all of her personal logs were like this. Like the webcams at a League of Legends tournament, you know, the camera jammed right in the face. At least it would make some sense. They don't think about these things. The Red Angel has to carry around a fucking Black Magic. Is it Black Magic, the camera company? Or a Canon, maybe? A camera drone floating around capturing beautifully rendered personal logs. Like, I don't know. There's so much wrong with this show. Okay. And here's another note. Not only are those personal logs incongruous, but so is giving Spock dyslexia. This really made me angry. This is one thing I do remember from the episode. I don't know, he blurts it out at some point, oh, I was dyslexic the whole time. And not only does that really not fit with Star Trek, like I'm absolutely sure that various of his characteristics would disqualify him from that. And not only would they probably have a cure for it as well, but it's just so offensive to be like, well, Spock, it doesn't belong there. It means nothing. No, and I can't even explain why that is. It's giving characters meaningless attributes just to, I don't know. I wrote down, this is some real Good Doctor shit. That's another thing I'd love to complain about, is The Good Doctor, is the show where the surgeon, Charlie Rich or something, I don't know what his fucking name is, his superpower, as I call it, is autism. So they bring him in and he's like, woo, 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 woo. He's scared of the self-opening doors and he can't talk to people in any meaningful way, but he's really good with his hands and he can magically pull tumors out. I don't know. I haven't watched the show, so I can't criticize, but I just know from watching the ads that it is the show that I see in my head. As the superpower thing that I keep returning to is that I don't like these shows like Numbers, or Monk, where someone is tasked with a job, whether it's solving crimes or investigating something or whatever, and they give them a meaningless, and I say superpower. It's not always something that would actually help. Like, David Krumholtz in that Numbers show, he sees numbers in front of him all the time, and somehow that's supposed to help. I just see that getting in the way. And it's the same with the Good Doctor with his autism, and it's definitely the same with Spock being dyslexic now. Oh, I say now, but spoilers, he's actually not going to be on Star Trek anymore. Anyway. I'm really talking myself into a hole here. Where are we up to? 24:30. You have a time-traveling slut in a time suit, but people still use wheelchairs. Yeah, this is a good point. They're walking around the Enterprise, or Discovery, wherever they are, and there's someone in a wheelchair. And you've got... this magic time suit that can do anything and travel to any period in time. You get a guy who was transplanted into a Klingon. That's Shazad Latif. You have that technology. You have they're talking to Leland, who has been taken over by the AI. You have all of this incredible stuff. These suits that you could carry in a pocket, like a pocket-sized. You push it and it goes, and Iron Man stuff happens. You have all that, but people still need wheelchairs. I just don't understand that there's no consistent logic in this fucking program. They really do... They're sawing off their own legs, despite their face, I think. Is that the expression? I don't know. Oh yeah, 25:15. They're quoting Hamlet, and then adding hell yeah on the end of the Hamlet quote. Really upset me a great deal. I think it was very disrespectful to the audience, and just overall a mismatch.
That's right, Scotty.
Sorry, I had to take a quick break then. A lot of these notes are gibberish. 27:02, there's a funny reaction shot. Burnham can't believe her mum is being cruel. Okay, now there's a classic, well, what I think was supposed to be a classic Star Trek Technobabble scene where they decide how they're going to solve their problem. Something about sending the sphere into the suit, into a wormhole, and using the dark matter. Now, I don't know if I've written that down wrong. I can't tell. Red Letter Media did a great video where I watched the Red Letter Media video before I saw this episode, and I couldn't figure out quite what they were making fun of. I got the gist, but I wasn't entirely sure. And then I watched this trash, and there's another roundtable Star Trek meeting where they're like all chipping in with ideas, and Stamets is being his usual fair self. And they're all contributing ideas. Oh, but the black... And then Spock joins in with his I like science fucking... And this isn't Star Trek. This is just spoiled custard. It's a real insult. I guess... yeah, no, it's hard for me to articulate just why this makes me so angry. It's not even about whether old Star Trek was the same. I've probably made this point before when I'm talking to David. It's not about what they got away with in the old days. By now you should be trying to make a better TV show. I don't know where you're going to take the influences from, but... I
think they should take inspiration from how Marvel is doing things.
Marvel? I think they're already taking some inspiration from Marvel, and this is making Star Trek worse. So, I don't agree, David. No, it's deeply depressing. The Technobabble scene. Meaningless. It's 3010-ish. Maybe I can play a clip from it or something.
Massive source of exotic energy.
The dark matter particles.
Transporter enhancer.
Yes, to pierce the time stream long enough to lock on Dr. Burnham and beam her into... I like science.
But there's not even any content or technobabble, as they call it, in there. It's just word salad. And the whole thing about dark matter, I don't know if I wrote down what I thought about this, but yeah. In the future, sometime way off in the future, I have faith that scientists, astronomers and so forth, will crack the code on this dark matter thing. Because dark matter, in case you don't know, is just a term. It's like the scientific equivalent of too hard basket, where there's some stuff we don't understand, we don't know what's causing it, so we put it in there to kind of, until we know what it is, we'll, just... it's a gross oversimplification, but dark matter isn't this magic stuff that's floating around out there that you can put into a warp drive and travel 10 times faster. It's stuff we don't know. There's gravitational effects of it that we don't understand yet. Bam, that's it. And it's just really, really gross that the people who make Discovery who really should have a better handle on science fiction, since they're writing for one of the preeminent science fiction shows of all time, allegedly. You'd think they would do a little homework on this, but no, apparently not. And they're just fine serving up this absolute crap to Scotty. I'm so glad I don't pay to watch Star Trek. Yeah. A limp salad. I wrote down limp salad. It's one of my favourite insults. I think it really does apply to Discovery. Leland is conning Captain Huawei into blowing up Burnham's mum. Her dentures are out of control at 3347. We'll probably play a clip of that. Yeah.
Time travel must be an elixir of some kind, intoxicating enough to make one forget about domestic matters. A child, perhaps?
She talks like that. That's what Shenzo sounds like in this fucking program. What's her name? Michelle Yeoh plays Captain Giorgio. I'm going to try and remember that so that I don't... so that you know what I'm talking about in future. But yeah, just every episode of this show, she mangles some dialogue. And every episode of this podcast, me and David, have a laugh about it. What the hell is this? Okay, sorry. There's too much shit on my screen. Yeah, I wrote down that the mother was a better actor than the show deserves. I stand by that. I said that already, but yeah. I don't know. There's a fight scene between Shazam Latif and Leland. He gets beat the fuck up, but I think what happens in the end is he actually survives, which is really insulting. I thought for a minute that Discovery had some integrity and it was going to kill someone off and have it be permanent and just... Because the show hasn't got much else going for it now anyway. Why not just kill someone? That's what I figured. But anyway, that didn't happen. I think he gets into an escape pod. He also has during the great big end confrontation where I think Leland or / the computer guy wants to blow up Michael Burnham's mum. There's another fight scene, which God knows we don't have enough of these in Discovery. Really, really great fight choreography. And there's a bass drop for Captain Shenzhen, which is really, really unwarranted. I don't even know what in the world now deserves a bass drop, but you hear so many of them that it's starting to it's long since lost all meaning. That's what I don't understand about Discovery. It's supposed to be at the forefront. This is supposed to be the best science fiction on television, you'd think. And they're just living off stuff that people were probably doing in 2005. I don't know. How could that be acceptable? Same goes for Orville, by the way. Am I hunching? I'm going to work on my posture. Oh, that's not a good look, is it? Let's have a look. AI dodge bullets. Yeah, here we go. He can AI dodge bullets, but he can't AI kick Shenzo's ass in a karate fight. This is absolutely correct. Leland / the AI is destroying everybody and beating the crap out of them and just fucking shit up left, right, and center. But somehow Shenzo is... A 60-year-old Asian woman is able to beat him, to face off against him and have it be, a to and fro. I don't even remember how that fight ended because I didn't actually write it down what the outcome was. Ash Tyler got in an escape pod, we know that already. And Spock plays chess with Kirk, not this swoosh-headed moron. That's a note I wrote down. The payoff, the end of the episode, is Spock patching things up with Michael Burnham and sitting down to a game of chess just like they used to. Yeah, just really pissed me off. You already know why. It boils down to Michael Burnham is nobody and nothing in Star Trek, and it really is. I might have actually liked the show a tiny bit more if they just hadn't dragged Spock into it and Sarek and all of that stuff. That whole plot where she's his family. They were always on a hiding to nothing. I don't know, David. How do you feel about things?
The bitch who plays Michael Burnham does the best she can with the material she is given, but I don't like her stupid smug face.
Well, that's mildly relevant, I guess. It's not... I'm going to have to work on this digital David thing. That is if I can't talk him into doing any more episodes of anything. Just... If they hadn't bet the farm on that whole angle, it turns out I'm actually Spock's best friend. It really could have been a lot better. I don't know, David. Without watching the next 3 episodes, I can't really talk about what happens. Other than that, it's going in a different direction, so-called. But I think it's just another cop-out, the way they've done it. I don't know, David. What do you want from Star Trek?
If anything, I just want a new show, post-Voyager, about the 25th century.
a new show, post-Voyager, post-Voyager, about the 25th century. David, you might be getting that with the Picard show, so, this might have been everything you were looking for.
I absolutely agree with that.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. This show is to Star Trek what Jeffrey Dahmer was to underage Hispanic and black boys in the late 80s. Yeah, exactly. As in, it's completely fucking it up and then killing it. It's just not good. Discovery, anyway. There's not too much more I can really say about that episode, or indeed Star Trek at the moment. Like I say, we're still 3 or so episodes off the end. One of them's a 2-parter, which really ought to add... It's added value, isn't it? I've been watching a lot of better better television than Star Trek lately. I watched Big Little Lies, which you might say, oh, what the hell, Scotty? It doesn't sound like your kind of thing. I don't know, it seemed pretty cool to me. Always good to see Reese Witherspoon doing a thing. I watched Chernobyl. Now that's easily 5 Rontgen out of 5 for me. The only reason I bring up Chernobyl is because I'll have to talk about this in some other video that might get more people seeing it. Because it really deserves to be known, is that the guy who plays the reactor control man, the guy in charge of Chernobyl, looks like pissed off Richie Blackmore. If you don't get that, then I'm sorry, I can't help you, but that was very funny. But also, yeah, it was kind of heavy material. I also, the other day, watched Leaving Neverland with my wife. There's some dark shit. And I as much as that was enlightening and interesting to look at, what I wish I hadn't done, but did do, was look at all of the people criticising it and saying, oh, they got the date with the train station wrong, so it must all be a lie. If you're in that point in your personal evolution, then I beg you to get past it and just accept the fact that Michael Jackson fucked the kids. He fucked a lot of them, and he was pretty, like, almost, I would say, industrial about it. The train station thing means virtually nothing. And what else? I've got nothing else to say here, really. Any more from you, David?
I agree with Scotty completely on this point.
Oh, okay, good. So he's also seen Leaving Neverland. Any more? What's up with you, David? How have you been sleeping?
I keep having these dreams where Doug Jones is gently singing to me while I'm lying in a giant crib. The dream always ends right as Doug Jones is about to start breastfeeding me. Is that weird?
A little weird. Any dream involving breastfeeding is, it's a cry out for a better time in your life. A return to the womb, so-called. I'm not gonna... No more of this bullshit. Federation conversation. I can't really do this without David, but at the same time, I didn't want it to be... I guess if... Oh! Here's another show I watched during our downtime, was Deadwood. Deadwood released a finale movie kind of thing. I love Deadwood, but watching that thing was kind of like having a dream where there was more Deadwood, in that it was made up of all of the things that you liked, but almost didn't need to happen, and didn't need to be there. It wasn't like a story that needed to be told, or... but at the same time, I always enjoy watching it. The actors were all great, and I'm glad they did it. But, yeah. I was going to make a point about Deadwood versus this. As for this podcast, Federation Conversation, it doesn't really matter if we do it or not anymore, but I didn't want the last episode to be one, and this is for me, not for anybody on the internet. I didn't want it to be one where we're like, haha, see you next time, and that be the ending, because I find that depressing. I listened to our old podcast where it ends as if nothing... It just ends like any other day. I don't like that. And as against the idea of like a bye-bye podcast or a farewell, I'm against that idea myself. But I would like at least to finish on the note of, this might not happen again. Sorry, guys. Other shit came up. In the case of this podcast, Star Trek sucks and we just can't talk about it anymore. Here's the problem. The alternative is we really need to double down and really podcast the hell out of it. And God, who could be bothered? For like, I don't want to jinx this video before I've uploaded it, but for 40 views or something, like, you don't want it. There's only so much work you can put in, is my point. So, and that's not to be a numbers man or in it for the wrong reasons or whatever. It's just, in life, you need to be able to justify what you're doing. And I'm really at that point now. I need to think about, if I'm going to be making videos, it's going to be something that someone will watch. Or will make me happy. And Star Trek really doesn't anymore. So, not to be a downer, but that's pretty much the end of the podcast. I made this awesome Starship collection. It's too close to the camera, you can't see it. Oh, never mind. What was I going to say? I might watch more of this series, and I might finish up the podcast on my own. I don't know. If you have a problem with that, write to David. Tell him to just do the last 3 with me. I don't think he will. And, what else have we got in here? Yeah, no, that's basically it. Perpetual Infinity. Another shitty episode of Discovery. And Scotty signing off on the Federation conversation for now.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. I really enjoy the time we spend together, and being able to share new and unique ideas and perspectives concerning all things Trek. What I really want you people out there to do next is to strip fucking naked and shake your fat ass while you spin in a circle.
That's uncharacteristically aggressive from David there. Anyway, guys, it's been real. We may see you again, we may not. And just take it easy.
Hoping some black bastard would come out of a pub.
This conversation is over.